Hi, my name is Shanice and welcome to my backyard desert garden. In today's video, I'm going to give you a tour and show you what's growing in the month of March. We'll start with the front of the yard where I have a different variety of plants growing all together. We have a river tamarind tree that just started growing in the front. I'm not sure how it got there, but I did not plant it there. Our river tamarind tree is actually blooming, and if you take a closer look, you can see the little bulbs. We put wire around the tree to prevent the wild cats from scratching it. Underneath and around this tree, we have sunflowers growing, basil, and wildflowers. We have a few native plants such as the red Mexican bird of paradise and our pink morning glory bush. We love growing sunflowers in the desert, so throughout this video you'll be seeing a lot of sunflowers. And off to the side we have our Mexican butterfly milkweed. We have a cluster of sunflowers growing in the front of our house and facing the sun. These are the tallest sunflowers in our whole garden. On the other side of our front yard, we have a hard time growing plants. However, we still managed to grow a few things like this pumpkin plant and a few wildflowers. Sometimes it just takes a while for the soil quality to improve. Stepping into the front yard, I want to show you guys these two beautiful trees that provide us with shade. We have a gorgeous mulberry tree that was planted here over 10 years ago. And as you can see, it's very strong with a healthy trunk. And we do have to repaint these white to protect the bark from the sun. Mulberry trees grow really cool tree branches and have very bright green leaves. And it's currently dropping pollen. Our other tree is hard to identify, but it's about the same size as our mulberry tree. Around the tree, we grow different types of plants in pots that do very well in the shade. And although aloe vera is a desert plant, it can't be in direct sunlight. Here's another beautiful plant right near the fence. We have our Madagascar periwinkle flower. On the side of the fence, we have our pink morning glory bush, which is a species of a morning glory that turns into a bush. Off to the side near the front, we have a pomegranate tree that we grew from seed. We have a Cape honeysuckle plant, which the hummingbirds love. This plant does not require that much water and could grow up to 7 feet. We have a powwow swamp lily that's growing on the side of our house. This bulb plant will produce pretty pink flowers in the summer. We have our Mexican purple petunias, which is starting to bloom. These flowers go dormant in the winter, and once it warms up, it starts to bloom. Now let's go to the backyard. In the back, we have our lavender starflower, which is a fast-growing evergreen shrub. Growing underneath the window, we have our lantana bush. This bush thrives in full sun and is very heat tolerant. On the side of the fence, we have our pink morning glory bush. This is a 2-year-old plant, so it's very tall and it will provide shade in the summer. This plant also attracts beneficial insects. Closer to the fence, we have our grapevine. Grapevines do not do well in the heat, so we have to grow them up against the fence to keep them from frying in the summer. At ground level, we have a rosemary bush that I planted into the ground last year. We have a few vegetables growing in pots, such as beets, squash, which has a beautiful flower on it, and more beets in pots. Off to the side, we have our mint and wildflower area. Since it gets so hot in the desert, mint is not invasive here, so we could actually grow it into the ground. And I'm so happy that our grass lilies actually bloom this year. I have fountain grass that I planted a few weeks ago into the ground, and a rose bush that I'm growing in a pot. I find it easier to grow roses in a pot rather than planting it in the ground. Next, we have our beautiful yellow hibiscus, which needs to be transplanted into a bigger pot soon. Moving forward with the tour, it's starting to get a little bit warm outside, so I'm just going to take this off and show you what's growing on the side of my greenhouse. This is our wildflower patch area. We purchased our seeds at the 99-cent store and planted them together, and this is how it turned out. It took a while, but at the end of March it started to bloom a little bit, and you could see the yellow and pink flowers, and I'm still waiting for a few more flowers to bloom. We planted these a little bit early in the season, but once it starts to warm up, everything will start blooming. And we even have a potato plant growing in front of the flowers. I recently put together this raised fabric garden bed, which I believe turned out perfectly, which allows me to grow a wide variety of vegetables and herbs. And we ended up putting a shade screen that's attached to the greenhouse that will shade the grow bag during the day. It's easy to grow vegetables in grow bags. We have sweet potatoes growing, These are slips from a single sweet potato that I propagated in water. I'm growing tomatoes in 2 grow bags and 2 pots. And in another grow bag, I have some carrots growing. This is our lovely greenhouse that we put up this year, where we were able to grow most of our vegetables from seed. In the front of the greenhouse, we have some pole beans growing inside of this windmill trellis, which I thought would be a really cool idea. We have an extension cord on our windmill trellis that powers the fan and keeps our greenhouse cool when it gets really hot outside. To keep the greenhouse cool in the inside, we put up shade screens over the top and left the windows open. Now let me show you what's growing inside the greenhouse. On the left, we have our stackable tier tray planter, which I planted herbs in, such as basil, sage, marjoram, and anise. I have 2 grow bags that I'm growing spinach in and herbs. We recently got a jasmine plant and a navel orange citrus tree, and a lavender plant, another tier planter with flowers growing in it, and our firecracker bush, lettuce growing in a pot that we grew from seed, and a lot more vegetables, like bush beans, cilantro, sweet potato, and spinach. We even had desert native trees growing. We have a patio picker container that I put together this year, which I'm growing vegetables and herbs in, like spinach, echinacea, and I have some onions growing in the middle. This patio picker container was a great choice because it's self-watering. Now onto our raspberry bushes. We have 2 raspberry bushes growing in pots. Each bush is doing really good and might even produce a few fruits this year. We keep them underneath the shade screen where they get morning sun but afternoon shade. The best thing about these raspberry bushes is that we don't have to water that much because the soil stays really moist. It flowered this spring, so I hope we get raspberries this year. Now on the other side of my backyard where we have even more plants growing. In this area of my yard, we have a combination of wildflowers, vegetables, and herbs growing. In the front of this area, we have our pomegranate tree, another rosemary plant, gladiolus bulb flowers, sweet peas growing on a trellis, inside a raised wooden garden box. And in the middle of this area, we have our sunflowers, we do have a dill plant growing, and some wildflowers. In another pot, we have our Baja fairy duster growing alongside with the Mexican butterfly milkweed. We have a yellow cassia. I love growing native shrubs around the garden because they are heat tolerant and provide shade. Next, we have a raised cinder block garden bed where I grow more vegetables, herbs, and flowers. However, the compost that we used actually fried some of my herbs, so we might have to redo this whole thing. However, our borage and lettuce have seemed to be thriving in this little area. On the side of our shed, we are growing more sunflowers to improve the soil quality, and we have our legendary prickly pear cactus that has been growing here for 3 years now. Every year, this cactus grows new arms and will bloom a flower every spring. This is our gorgeous red, beautiful bougainvillea that has been here for 40 years now. My grandparents planted this here 40 years ago when they homesteaded this land. This gorgeous bush is a centerpiece in our garden that we will cherish for many years. On the side of the house near our fence, we have our native garden. We have about 7 different plants growing all together, which they keep each other cool. First, we have our desert willow tree. We planted this last year and it grew so tall. Now it's growing back from being dormant. Next to the desert willow tree, we have our hollyhock growing. And this hollyhock is about 6 feet tall. It's doing so well here since we planted it last year. And just look how big the leaves are. Next to the hollyhock, we have our red Mexican bird of paradise, which is still dormant right now. Towards the bottom of this plant, we have our giant basil bush, which I believe they grow really well together. This is our 3-year-old basil bush. We let this basil go to seed to provide food for the wild birds. Next to the basil bush, we have another hollyhock growing, and it's been blooming since December. We even have new shoots that's going to be growing soon. Towards the end, we have another pink morning glory bush. Since this area gets a lot of sun, this bush did not go dormant, and it's been blooming since February. Here's our 5-year-old red Mexican bird of paradise bush. As you can see, this bush is well established. This plant could grow over 8 feet tall and attracts butterflies to the garden. During the summer, this plant has red fiery flowers. This bush will stay bloomed until winter, so I can't wait for it to grow back. And if anyone's still watching, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this desert garden tour. Subscribe for more sunshine garden videos.